They had the.
There we go.
Yeah, it's the candy.
I know. No, that was so clear.
I'm her.
Yeah, this is for anybody who speaks. White.
You keep it away. I think we don't have that.
No, we're good.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I would kind of roll.
You did not?
Yeah.
I'm in charge.
I've
I didn't say I'm in charge.
A little crazy this morning.
Welcome
to the August 2nd meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Flower Hill. Robert, would you like to start next the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's all stay standing for a very brief moment, 4 moments of silence for the 3 young gentlemen and the 2 drivers who passed away this week, who were from Manhasset. All right, thank you. The mayor is delayed, so I will be playing the role of Brian Harrington for the next half hour or until he gets here. First, let's do the first public hearing. Ronnie, I think I need a motion to open up
Yes.
public hearings.
So I'd like to ask for a motion to open the public hearing portion of our meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Trustee Collins. Second, all in favor? Okay. Our first hearing is a special use permit hearing for Labor Day fireworks display at the North Hempstead Country Club on September 3rd, 2021, with the rain date of September 4th, at approximately 9:35.
8:30.
I was thinking that.
It's gonna be earlier.
8:30, okay. And we have Mr. Dan Rogers, the general manager of North Hempstead Country Club, here to answer any questions, make the presentation.
Where do we go to stand nowadays?
You can stand up at the podium if you want, you can sit in the chair.
I missed you all. It's been too long.
It's been way too long, welcome back.
Just wanted to make sure those were the right dates, because, these things keep changing. So, yes, September 3rd. This is in lieu of 4th of July fireworks. We didn't think we would get approval. The meeting was like 2 days before they relaxed all the restrictions for July celebration. We were kind of already pushing towards September anyway. So I have here the receipts from the certified mail that we sent to all of our neighbors from the property, and then fresh copies of all of the paperwork from the fireworks company. The old one that we used is no longer in business. They recommended somebody new, and then he started a new business. So he has a different business. So,
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
as in the past, we'll have parking on the property for the members and such. If neighbors would like to walk over and hang out, we would be open to that, of course, as well.
Same place as always, where the
Same
fire,
place as
where the
always.
fire department is.
Yep.
Excellent.
Do you anticipate How many members do you anticipate will attend?
Traditionally, we get about 1,500, and we're expecting about 1,500. We'll cap the attendance. We actually put a limit on guests this year so that, we can manage that a little bit, so.
And I hate to ask this question, but in the event that things get worse with this pandemic,
We would do the right thing.
what?
We would do the right thing,
Well, yeah, I just asked that if you just please notify us.
yes, if we do have to make a
I hope you
change.
don't make that call.
Right, if we have to make a call or make a change, and restrictions are back in place that we would feel comfortable hosting it, we would notify you that they were off. But, let's hope we're not going that far that way.
Are there any questions from the board?
I have none, you guys have done a great job for the last 5, 6, 7+ years that you've opened it up to the residents. I think the few people that come truly enjoy it, and I look forward to you hosting it again this year.
Any questions from the public? Okay, there being none, can I ask for a motion to approve the special use permit for the fireworks display? Trustee Denise made that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Trustee Lewandowski? All in favor?
So I have to abstain, I'm a member. If I have to
Okay, thank
abstain, I will. I would by the eye, but I'm a member, so.
Thank you for letting us know.
You're welcome.
Ronnie, we're still okay with 4 people voting then?
Yes, the majority of the board is 4 out of 7, so that's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
all
you
very much.
very much, good luck.
Thank you very much for the moment of silence.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is a public hearing regarding proposed local law C, which amends the definition of home office. And just to explain to those in our audience who don't know about this, is that the way our code is currently written is home office is only for use by a professional such as a doctor or lawyer, something like to that effect. Since pandemic, people have been working at home. We want to change that definition to include anybody who does work in their home. This is the third hearing of this law by this body. And at this point, if there's any discussion or questions, let's do that, and then I'll ask for a resolution to pass this law.
I have no questions. Anybody else?
Can I just ask one quick question? So let's say you have somebody and now all of a sudden like we have an accountant that lives on our block. And so when it's tax season, there are frequently many cars lined up. So let's say you had somebody that has a home office and the parking outside of their house goes from, the normal 2 or 3 to, let's just say 10. Because, they're doing a group exercise class or 15. I don't know, is there any limitation on that? Or is this local law doesn't really address that?
It does, actually, to some extent, but let's suppose that,
No, please.
so in paragraph D mentions that it requires that it does not result in an alteration or exterior feature which would change or modify the residential character or appearance thereof. So arguably, it depends on how much traffic increases, but I think if you end up with a home that normally there would just be one car parked in front, all of a sudden you've got just ongoing traffic, backing up the road. I think it would have to be more than just a couple of cars, but if it changes the appearance such that it's becoming a problem in the neighborhood, it's not like they're changing the structure, but I think they're changing the appearance of that residence.
I mean, you're the lawyer, but that looks very vague to me.
It is. It is. It's not, it doesn't specifically say
Anything about
it's an
traffic.
increase in traffic.
That would be my one concern, because there are many different professions, and some of them require people to come to people's house together. So, for instance, in the Pure Bar studio, it's a major problem with parking there for the other people. So I'm just trying to understand if there's anything we've said to address. Yes, we said you can't change the exterior house, hang your single up, but we have not said anything about now all of a sudden, instead of people coming to your business and something you rented in Port Washington, now they're coming to your home.
This does not specifically say anything about traffic, and it would be an argument from the code. I can tell you that in some other villages, they've added provisions that will say something along the lines of what you're saying, which is if there's an appreciable increase in traffic that causes difficulty in the surrounding area, or one mentioned an increase in exterior lighting in particular, or noise as a result of the business inside. So if you wish, we could amend it to make that clearer.
I personally think you're just avoiding any confusion or gray area by adding that. And maybe we don't need it, but you know what? If you do, you're gonna be thankful you had that in there.
We had this issue in the past. It was a psychologist in the area who was running a group. Yes, she had a group. I think it was near your house that we made. And there was an issue with parking. So why don't we see if we can amend this further? And we have some public comment first, and then we'll make a motion to amend it and adjourn.
You have a statement?
Mitchell M. Schwartz, 15 Ridge Drive West. That case, that was on center. It was, I believe, just in case I don't know whether it's relevant or not.
Mr. Schwartz, I don't know if you can hear clearly. I think maybe people
Actually, like this, one of the things was like really
yeah,
loud.
maybe take off your mask to speak.
Or maybe if you're going to, maybe.
Make come closer, yeah.
Will that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Apologies. I believe that case was actually, I believe the woman was conducting religious services. I don't believe it was psychology. I think it was with Universal Science of Mind International. It's recorded in the minutes from that year. I want to say it was 85. Because she came to a meeting and distributed pamphlets on her.
It's not relevant to what we're talking about, but
I just wanted to bring it up that I believe it was religious, some sort of religious thing. It wasn't. It's a college display.
so let's table this. Let's go back and make some modifications.
Okay, so what we should do right now is somebody should offer a motion to adjourn this hearing to September.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a second?
It's not the total.
I'll second.
Okay, that's unanimous. We have all in favor?
Aye.
This is adjourned to September 13th to add parking provisions.
May I just ask, as long as I'll be putting in parking provisions, perhaps I'll include the other language that I mentioned for the board to review. As I said, one of the other villages I work with have been concerned about the possibility of exterior lighting, which I do think might be covered.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Chairman, you have no, I'm sorry.
Okay. So
Focus.
if I may, perhaps I'll amend to include both the traffic concerns and the possibility of excess noise or lighting and the like, and then the board can edit as you deem appropriate.
I would just also say that we should see how that compares to the,
I'm sorry, trustee Luteski, I can't hear you. Maybe use your microphone.
okay, how's that?
There's a difference.
Is it turned on?
Yeah, lights on.
Much better back here, I think.
Okay, I was only gonna mention to Jeff that we also have a lighting code, right? So just to make sure that we're not conflicting with that in any way, right?
And just to add another dimension is that if there is any construction required for us to create some kind of home office, that goes before the zoning board of appeals. So there's another layer of protection. Okay, moving on. Next is proposed local law D to amend the definition of a corner property. Again, this is because homeowners who live on a corner have issues with using a side yard or a backyard, because by definition, a corner lot has two front yards. And this is to give relief to those homeowners who live in seek a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Again, this is the third hearing, so, of this law. I would ask the board if there's any further comments or discussion.
I have a question. Shouldn't it say a yard across the full width of the lot from the rear wall of the building? This is from the wall.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Elder, speakers are building superintendent.
So it should be anything,
Computer.
should be the rear wall. It should say a yard across the full width of the lot from the wall, the rear wall.
building line.
To the rear line of the lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's saying rear line, but the rear line is defined, so it's gonna be, if we're gonna say it's gonna be either the rear or the side, it should just say to that property line. If it's a side yard, of course, it's a corner lot.
Right, it either has
The
to,
full width of the lot, yeah, it's not really the full width of the lot, because you wouldn't include the front yard portion.
no, I'm saying if, just doesn't the rear lot start at the rear face of the house and go back?
Yes,
So it just says from the wall of the building. Shouldn't it say from the rear wall of the building?
I think it's implied, the rear wall.
Well, the concern I have is given that the question came up, so I would imagine that somebody else will have the same question, so.
I mean, I've read this, all these months, to me, it's just assumed that the wall of the building is.
Because we understand how it works.
Yeah, I mean,
Because we do that for a living. But for someone who's a layperson, not an architect, would say, oh, from what wall of the building?
well, and plus, since we're saying rear or side, you can't just say rear wall, you would say the wall facing that yard.
Something
So-
that makes it a little clearer.
I actually have another question regarding, I'm not sure I understand, on a corner lot, there are two front yards, correct? So would the front yards be off limits for side yard and rear?
Right, you can't go in the front yard.
So in other words, whatever is determined as the rear yard, and whatever is determined as the side yard of the corner lot, they do not go beyond what is considered the two front faces of the house.
Correct. And it can't go, yeah, it can't, not only the setback, but whatever the wall is facing those two streets. That establishes the front yard beyond what is.
Right, the setback, not.
Yeah. So basically, from the front wall on each side of the corner lot, you can use that for accessory structures. But you have to comply with what we have as rear and side yard setbacks for those as it is defined. Did that confuse you or make it clear? I don't know.
I know how it works.
Yeah, you know,
I'm just concerned that if someone reads this code, they may interpret it differently, because it's not specific regarding what wall of the building, so they may say, is it the rear wall, is it the front wall, the side wall?
well, what could be done is what's, what's done, I can add a diagram to
Yes.
this,
That would be-
to clarify it, and we could just make it as an attachment to this,
That'd be good.
I think a diagram would be,
yeah,
then it is very clear.
Right.
Make it as simple as possible for people to understand.
yeah.
Ms. Becker?
The concern that I have,
Public hearing, name and address.
Rhoda Becker,
Address.
the concern that I have is that from the street, the view, and you must provide some sort of evergreen shrubs, etc., so that you're not looking directly at somebody's wall or somebody, playing tennis. You want to control, keep that within a certain area.
That's an ARD thing, I think, right there.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's an ARB, that ARB reviews that, because there've been some that have had a pool put in, some people put it inside lot, and it has to screen that so that it's not visible from the street.
Because some of them should require a fence, and then you want some therapy or something. Thank you.
Any other comment? I have a question for our attorney. Normally diagrams in our code go into the appendix. So with this, if we pass this local law, we have to wait until we also have the, appendix material approval as well.
I would suggest that, and also if, consistent with what Trustee Denise was saying, we're going to add the word rear to the,
Oh, okay.
from the rear wall of the building in any event. It probably makes sense to carry it over once so that the board can see the diagram.
Well, yeah, except it also is the sidewall, because you have a rear and a sidewall.
Right.
So,
That's why diagrams.
I think that, to me, I think if the diagram, linking the diagram to that definition is sufficient. I think, again, picture's worth 1,000 words.
Absolutely.
But I would still suggest then that we include the language, something along the lines of, as identified in appendix A, whatever,
Okay.
here, so that anybody using this can just.
Yeah.
And just going back to my point though, Frank was focusing on the rear building line, but we're focusing on a yard across the full width of the lot. That makes sense in a typical lot, but based on what we talked about, how the front yards extend.
Well, that's what the diagram will clarify.
So I'm just saying is that we're trying to change the definition, but we should then change the definition wholly, not, it's still, I think there's room for interpretation if we take the two sentences together to mean that it's the full width of the lot, and you can use the full width of the lot, whether on a corner property in the rear or the side yard, which, again, I understand that the definition would be is that the side yard wouldn't start until the front yard setback. Your rear yard wouldn't start until the front yard setback. But I think we can clean up the language and certainly the diagram will be crystal clear, hopefully.
I don't have the book with me, but I think that the definitions of side and rear are in the definitions we have now. That like the side yard doesn't, it extends from the front yard back.
To the rear yard.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Yeah.
my point. Right now,
To the rear lot line.
yeah. The side yard
The side yard does not continue to the front yard. I think the definition
But
says
does the
that.
side yard continue across the rear, to the rear lot line?
No.
No, the rear yard starts. So that's my
Yeah.
point here. That's why it says the full width of lot. The yard across the full width of the lot. That's a typical.
Yeah, I think the diagram, referring it to the diagram will
So now I'm confused.
help the semantics there.
So the side setback line, right, should run from the front of the property to the back rear lot. Shouldn't stop at the back of the house. the side.
No, but the yard, it's not the setback, but
Not the
you're
setback.
talking yard, not setback.
Right, so Gary's right, so, right, so one stops there, one in the side yard is just that piece.
I can read you the definition from the code. For a side yard, it's defined as a yard on the same lot as the principal building, situated between the sideline of the lot and the nearest wall of the building, and then bounded by the front and rear building lines.
Yeah.
So I think that's consistent with the code.
Yeah, so why are we changing to this one? That's much of the version.
Well, that's the side yard definition.
But it should be.
Corner lot. Front yard.
No, the rear still goes.
This
all
now,
the way across.
if this is narrower, that's our rear.
Yeah.
And that's our side.
You see what Peter's right?
Excuse me, there's like too much cross conversation, this is not, we cannot understand.
So why don't, yeah.
One at a time, please.
That's exactly.
So in the diagram,
Stravinsky is showing
in the
steps.
diagram, we will show that this is the area, both the rear and the side yard is the area on a corner lot you can use. But by definition, the front goes on both fronts. The rear is from, and this is by definition, this is our rear yard because of the narrower side. And the side yard is just the width of the building to that next property line.
And it would be, in a mid-block, it would be the sidewalk on the other side.
Right, if this was mid-block, then that would be side here and it would extend all the way across.
That diagram is very clear.
Can we put this in right now?
Sure, yes. For the record, I'm just kidding.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn this hearing to September 13th. Further clarification of the new proposed law and inclusion of a diagram. Do I have a motion?
Since I started.
Trustee Denise. And second,
I better second it.
trustee Lewandowski,
I got it back.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the third public hearing is on proposed local law 8, which allows the village to opt out of retail cannabis sales and use, what's it called? I'm sorry, I'm just like blanking on sales and,
It's allowing retail marijuana sales and on-site consumption.
on-site consumption, opting out of retail sales and on-site consumption of cannabis in the village. And this is the third reading of this law. So I'm going to ask if anybody on the board has any comments, or discussion.
I want to hear from the public first,
I'd love to hear from you.
if there's anybody who has any comments on this. All right, now let's go.
Okay, so let's see, no public comment, and there's no discussion from the board. Would somebody like to offer a resolution to pass this law?
I'm going to make a little statement.
Please.
So I wanted to thank all the residents in the past 3+ months who've reached out to the village, either email or people who've run into on the streets or people who actually come to the meetings to express their opinion on the opting out. Overwhelmingly, I have yet to run into a single person that was in favor of allowing the retail sales or on-site consumption anywhere in Village of Flower Hill. I guess you guys, if you haven't read the paper, you've got people villages that have opted out already. You've got Williston Park, Sands Point, you've got Park, Floral Park. Roslyn Estates is considering it this month, they'll probably work on it this month. So they're all opting out or going to opt out. It's a big trend here on the North Shore in Nassau County, town of Hempstead. I think it's the wise choice to make because if everyone else is opting out, whoever doesn't is going to get all that traffic. And we already have a very small commercial corridor in the boulevard right now. A lot of traffic all the time. It's always difficult to get down. So why do we want even more traffic coming to the Village of Flower Hill and all these other municipalities opting out? So I'm definitely going to vote in favor of this. But again, for any residents who objects to this, there is a permissive voter referendum. If assuming this board in the next 2 minutes opts out, if they want us to opt back in, then they have to secure a sufficient number of signatures on a petition. It'll then go on to a ballot within the next, it's called voter referendum, will happen within the next 45 days. And then the village residents can actually vote on this topic to overrule the Board of Trustees, which for almost any other local law that a village can pass, Jeff can correct me on this, I don't know of any other thing that voters can do a referendum. So this is a very unique opportunity for our residents if they do disagree with this board. However, I have yet to run into anybody who wants us to not opt out.
There are other things, but
It's very
but they're very specific and delineated.
All right, so we've already asked the public for any comments, which they have none. I'd like to make a motion for the Village of Flower Hill to opt out of allowing retail marijuana sales and on-site consumption establishments in our local village. Do I have a second?
Trustee Boardman is a second. I'm going to read the resolution. Whereas the Board of Trustees has determined that it is in the best interest of the village to opt out of permitting retail cannabis sales or use establishments in the community, this resolution hereby enacts proposed local law E of 2021 and local law 5. And whereas the Board of Trustees has determined that it is the lead agency for the purpose of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and has further determined that consideration of the within local law is a type 2 action requiring no further action under SECRE. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts local law 5, 2021, and be it further resolved, this law shall take effect immediately. I'm going to call the board. Trustee Dorfman? Aye. Trustee Lewandowski?
Aye.
Trustee Collins?
Aye.
Trustee Janice?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you, everybody. I guess we'll now make a motion to close the public hearing. Someone want to second that?
Second it.
Trustee Lewandowski, second. And it is now 8:04 PM, and the public hearing is closed. Thank you. You're done. Okay, very good. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the July 12th regular meeting and public hearing. Are there any corrections or comments? And in absence of that, a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Trustee Dorfman, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, claims. Are there any questions on the claims?
I have reviewed them all. I assume the mayor has reviewed them all. I have no questions. So I will make the motion to approve the claims.
I hear a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Collins? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to ask our treasurer to report on our tax collection. Today was tax due date. We had extended by local law the date that taxes were due from July 1st to August 2nd, being that today is the first Monday of the month. And we do.
Today we collected almost $90,000 worth of taxes, and when I come in tomorrow morning, I can guarantee you there'll be several envelopes shoved in. Because it's still through today, so.
How are we overall in collection?
Overall, we collected $1.8 million, so we're doing phenomenal as far as our tax collection this year. I think we're ahead of where we were last year at this time, so it's great.
Thank you. Great news. Okay, good. The village can keep running. Okay, I'd like to get to the architecture review committee report. Are you going to make the report, Mr. Alinsky?
I am.
Okay.
I did not attend that meeting. Trustee Lewandowski chaired it in my stead. There were 3 applications. 40 Fernwood came back again, and there were sort of still extensive comments on that one, and they have to come back with reference to those comments. 264 Northwood is a new dwelling. I'd say that the design of the house was, there were a couple of minor comments, but there's still concerns about the landscaping and some large tree removal that was proposed. So we asked them also to come back to present that landscaping work. And then 150 Elderfields was an addition and really extensive alteration changes. The board had asked that they come back with some renderings so that they can clarify the design work on that project. So each of the 3 applications were asked to return. That's my report for July 26th ARC meeting.
I'd like to ask the board for a motion to approve the findings of the architectural review committee.
I'll make
I have a motion by trustee Denise. Second.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lewandowski, all in favor?
Aye.
I understand that tomorrow we're going to have planting in the community meeting place.
Yeah.
Any further,
The plants are here. They're going to be planted tomorrow. So it's going around the perimeter. On the front two corners, I think there's arborvitae's that, I wish they were a little bit bigger, but they will grow and get full and create like a screening from the parking lot. And then there's some annuals going in, and it should be really, really, really nice looking.
Nice to say hi.
How long until we get the benches? I heard it's gonna be a while.
The benches are the long lead item. I think
Benches
it's-
and the flag.
Yeah, they're, I don't know, months out or something of that
Yeah,
sort.
fair enough.
We have no idea what we're gonna do things about.
Well, actually, Brian was hoping that we do have a mock-up of the plaque, and we don't have benches, we can always move a couple of benches from the park temporarily. So we're looking for a September date. I spoke to Ginny McNamara, and she's wide open for the month of September.
Yeah, I spoke about this.
Yeah, so,
We don't even need the benches. I mean, I think if we have the mock-up of the plaque, that's, I don't think we should take away from what the event is, which is, memorial event. So, I think just having the mock-up of the plaque would be great.
I need a more.
I know we need a date,
I need a date for the fire.
Ginny and I were talking about the first Thursday or Friday of September after Labor Day. I don't know how that works for everybody, and I haven't run that date just a minute yet.
Right, so Frank, I did really let Ronnie know to make sure you liaison.
Right.
We want to do the
What
arch.
do I want?
Okay.
So, as soon as Brian gives us that okay, we'll, just as like.
They'll have to shut down, on nights. For the flag, so.
I was in Northport the other day, and there was, the flag and the two ladders, and they had, it was interesting how they did traffic pattern around it. Okay, that's great.
I just had one other comment. Mary Jo and I were meeting with Rich before, and he told us that he's going to do the planning tomorrow. The one other thought I had regarding planning, and it doesn't have to be immediate, but we should think about is maybe on the south side of garden, whatever, between that and where the parking is.
Right.
We think about putting a deciduous tree so that maybe we'll get a little more use in that part of the summertime as well. Just a shade
Yeah,
tree.
I had thought about it, I think it was brought up, we talked about putting a dogwood tree there. That's our tree.
Okay.
Did that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we think it's gonna get to a mature height, we'll provide
Yeah,
shade for that space.
yeah, because he also would cut down some of the view of the parking and the soul shed in that direction.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. It'll be a add-on to, yeah.
Nice idea. Okay, Public Works, Rich, is there anything new to report? Just summer busy season, I know you guys are working hard. Okay, engineer, we have the contract from American Paving, I received it today, signed by American Paving, yes. And the mayor will sign it when he comes in. What's our next step?
The next step is we have to set up a pre-construction meeting. So let's talk to Brian, maybe tomorrow, and find out which days, mornings would work for him or late afternoons. Once we have that, I'll reach out to Angelo and see if we can get a date together. I guess between this week and next week at this point.
I took a great class on negotiating, I'm ready.
Good luck.
And Steve, they already took down the tree on Woodland?
Yes.
You just gotta, once they rip up the road, there's roots that are still there, he's gonna come back and he'll mill all that stuff out.
Okay. What's a guesstimate on when we're gonna start?
I'm gonna say probably the end of next week.
It will be done hopefully by.
It has to be done
Before the school
before
bus.
Thanksgiving.
Well, no, I'm hoping we can finish before the school buses start.
Never happen.
School starts very early.
We have to try to make it a point next year to get this started in June. We have to start the work in June at the latest.
Makes sense.
Okay. Next is my report. I just want to report to the board that I got a scholarship in the last 2 weeks for my vacation. I attended the New York State Municipal Clerks Institute, which was run by Rockefeller University, the State University of Albany. It was very intensive. It was done remotely. I did it here in the office from 8:30 to 8 a.m. to 12:30 every day. I learned a lot. It didn't cost the village a penny because I did get a scholarship from the National Council Clerks Association.
Is that a football event?
I'm on the team,
It's
yeah.
tennis, it's tennis.
I get to wear the sweatshirt. So one thing that I did, one thing that I learned that we have not done is that we need to adopt a subject matter list of our village records. And while I have something that's not quite a complete subject matter list, I don't know if you recall several years ago, there was a news agency did a study of all villages on their transparency. And we got an A, and the reason I didn't get an A+ was that our subject matter list was incomplete. So, if they ever do it again, we're getting an A+. What I would like to do is adopt a retention schedule, which is the New York State Archives Schedule LGS-01, and that's Local Government Series. And that tells us every record that we have to retain, the period we have to retain it, and the destruction period. And if we do that, we will have a complete subject matter listing. So I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the LGS-1 as the retention schedule, as the subject matter list of village records. Trustee Dorfman?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, what's
I'll
that?
second it, sorry.
Deputy Mayor? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next, the New York Conference of Mayors is holding their annual fall training school in person, God willing, in September. Treasurer, Deputy Clerk Treasurer Suzanne Tangredi and I would like to attend, and we would like to ask the board for an approval for our attendance. And that would be the week of September. It's like the third week of September.
Back to Saratoga?
Back in Saratoga.
I think it's September 20th to the 23rd.
Right, it's normally, we go Monday, the class is starting Monday afternoon, and we leave Thursday at the end of classes.
Have you discussed this with the mayor?
I'm sorry?
Have you already discussed this with the
I
mayor?
have.
And what did he say? Because
He
he
said
didn't tell
okay.
me. He said, okay?
I think he said okay, I told him I was gonna have it on the agenda. He didn't say take it off.
Why don't we wait till he gets here?
Okay,
Assuming he gets here. Let's make that the last item then.
okay, great.
Okay.
Now, I'll talk about how I'm making money for the village. I don't know if anybody noticed that there were some people in the park. We received an application for a park use permit. This is a Manhasset Theater Group for young people, is putting on play. And they have rented the park for a few rehearsals this week and a performance on Friday and Saturday night. We did collect a very nice fee for that. They provided appropriate insurance. So that's what they're doing over there.
And they're supplying porta
Porta
potty.
potty.
Since you already told me the story, I figured we'd share.
I know. We got some questions about that. I didn't want all the little kids sneaking behind the bushes. Okay, we have received.
Is this event gonna be publicized? I haven't-
It's a private theater group.
It's a
I'm sure they're
private theater,
publicizing
okay.
it. I know, we got a call from somebody that, grandpa,
What's the plan?
into the woods.
I think I saw something somewhere.
It's a musical.
No, you saw the one that's in Port Washington Band Shell, it's right by your office. There's another group that's doing it this weekend, that's That's Chinese theater. I know there's something in the band shell this weekend also.
Money, can I ask, maybe some more for Rich, but is there a law that said that the water fountains can't be turned on in parks?
I'll defer to Rich, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
If our water fountains are or not on, right?
Oh, they're on,
Oh, they are,
yes. they're
both
on.
of them?
Yeah, they're both on.
Good.
They're both on. Only our watering schedule is.
Yeah, no, the water fountains in the park, they're all.
Yeah.
Okay, we received our check for Recovery Act spending, just shy of $250,000. What I wanted to go over is, first, the Treasury Department has issued some guidance on how these funds can be spent. And one of the categories are services that that assess eligibility products and services by identifying the economic harm of COVID-19 and whether the activity will address this harm, and assess the causal or compounding connection to COVID-19 and assess the disproportionate impact. So I know this means like nothing to me when I look at it like a vacuum, but because of COVID-19, and we were out of the office and we were limiting visitors to the office, people wanted to access information, whether it was building files or other files in the village, and could not because we were either not open, they couldn't make an appointment. So what I'm proposing to do with this money is to create a system where we're going to scan our files, starting with our building files. We've already scanned all of our death certificates. We're going to completely scan these files. We're going to put them into a system, Laserfish system, that will enable them to be used, not just by us, but eventually somebody will be able to go on our website and access records online. What we're also doing is installing a new building department program that will allow use of tablets in the field, enable inspections to go quicker, faster, and more accurate, therefore promoting permit issuance in a more timely manner. And I think it's because COVID-19 brought to us the attention of the fact that, you can't just run a paper office. We need to be open and accessible around the clock to our constituents and other users. So I did a whole lot of research on this. I looked at many different systems, many different programs, lots of different pricing on scanning. So the most costly part of this project is the scanning of our building department documents. You all know how many rooms and drawers we have. So this is a state contract, and this is a company that uses Handicapped Health. They are a preferred provider for New York State. The scanning is $143,000 and change. The next most costly item is the building permit program. It's called Unicity. It's most widely used in our area. Again, this is a tailored New York State program. I've spoken to many other villages who have this program. I got very high ratings. And cost-wise, it's in the ballpark. Now, we will have an annual cost of upkeep, but we currently have annual cost of upkeep on our current building program, which is like DOS-based or something that's really antiquated. Okay, the next most costly item is uploading all of those documents into Unicity and Laserfish. Now, Laserfish is that system that's going to keep all of our files, not just building files, the whole village's files, online, in the cloud, and accessible. The upload is $21,000. The Laserfish is $6,000 and change. What I like is that these are all of these, the software is meshed, and it's interactive with each program is interactive with the other one. So the total on this is about $217,000. As I said, we've got a check for $248,000 and change. We're limited in what we can spend it on. And I just think that this is responsive to any future pandemic or unfortunately continuing pandemic, and will really help bring our village into the 21st century. So I'm not asking for any approval now because the mayor's not here. I just wanted to lay it out for you. I've got lots of literature, and if you'd like, I can hook you up.
What village is using?
I talked to Chrissy. I talked to, I have a whole list in my office.
Yeah, we'll
Couple
probably,
people.
I think we're gonna have,
Further
I think we're gonna
on.
have to have a round year, a second meeting.
We need a
We're gonna need a whole.
That's
whole presentation.
Fort Lord. What?
I missed it.
And Fort Lord. They did it together. Oh, and, Russell Gardens, some of the great lands. Yeah, Kensington, a lot of the great ones.
I've never seen it live.
Well, I can arrange for you to have a demo. It's really, I mean,
Have you seen it?
head and shoulders above all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's an example.
yeah, you can Roslyn Harbor. Yeah, it hooks into the GIS, at least the one I had. You know.
It's
Everything's all connected.
amazing.
So, but it's mostly for the village department staff, right?
They have modules. If you
Yeah, there's
need to
modules,
get-
but
Can a homeowner go on and look at his building plan?
Yes.
I
There's a way
have
to
a question
connect.
about that. What about like FOIL requests? People can just go on and look at anything on
No.
site?
No, they have to foil it, but we can, through Municity, send it to them, push a button.
So Frank, we're gonna have to get a full
Yeah,
presentation,
absolutely.
download. Peter, have you used this system at all, anywhere?
A little bit in Roslyn
I
Harbor.
heard it's great, I heard it's great.
And what is it, as the building
Yeah,
inspector, what do you think
yeah.
so far?
I'm not the building inspector, I'm the village architect.
Sorry, jeez.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm not on all the time, but it was very intuitive, I'd say, and there were more layers that I, didn't get into, but
I'll check it
So
out.
the integration, I think, is like the inspection thing, when you can do things on an iPad, it just goes right into the system, rather than you gotta bring it back, Heather's
Oh, we
got to
spoke
put it
Heather
in.
has to type it up.
How many years ago did we speak about something like this?
That
5
we
years
what?
ago? How many years ago did we speak about something like this? Like 5 years ago, we were talking about.
Or more. I know I've been on this bandwagon for a very long time.
Right. Couple of questions. Does it have, of the other modules, I'm gonna get into the weeds, does it do code enforcement?
Yes.
Other types of
The
things?
code enforcement is included in this price.
Now, because Gary had the question, what's the price differential for what we're paying today versus what Municity wants to charge us?
Okay, so Municity is, the first year is $6,700. That includes like the installation, the training and everything like that. Thereafter, it is, $5,000 a year.
And what's our current software?
Our current software, I think, is what, about 3,000?
About.
You can't compare it to what it does.
No, but
I'm sorry, Suzanne
Yeah.
said something, what?
I believe it's about 6,000 a year.
So that ends up being cheaper in the long run.
Okay, because Gary had the question, so.
No, so I actually, I didn't follow all your numbers on to get to 217K, so. You said 143K
143, 389.50,
That's
for
the
the
late, that's the
scanning.
late.
39, 175, Municity. 21, 500. 6,100. Oh, maybe, I'm sorry, I think I may have left off that 6720, that's the setup
Right,
for
right.
the initial, setup of the Municity.
Now, do we, because you forgot the rest of your story.
I'm
You
sorry,
forgot the rest of your story. This is all cloud-based, correct?
it's all cloud.
So we don't need to upgrade our server, correct?
The only thing that we have left to do to get completely off the server is go to Microsoft 365 instead of the.
Right, and
that we have.
that's a totally separate thing, but
Right,
yes.
but that's the only thing that's tying, after we do this, the only thing tying us to the server is the email.
So in your equation here, you need to walk out theoretically the cost of the new server. So when you redo your presentation,
It's true.
throw in the cost of what we need, because our
That's
server is.
$20,000 for the server.
So we would save the 20,000, because we know our server, we've been postponing the server upgrade for a while. It's kind of.
But it's good.
Yeah.
Well, we had this discussion in the last budget here, and we thought, Ronnie wanted this, we're like, wait, well, let's hold them on the hardware, let's totally.
And as Ronnie knows,
You know what
the system that we have now is one guy upstate.
And he's not,
And
he's not responding to
it's not a
calls.
company, it's one guy.
Right, we're single threaded, which is,
You know, so
That's why-
that's been, even before all this, we knew we had to go to a new system, of course, it's really not, it doesn't instill a lot of
Yeah,
confidence in
it's-
one guy, and when he goes, it's, if he decides to retire, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the villages that formerly were using this checklist, we're probably the only ones still using it, everybody's on Municity now. It's just such a great New York State-based program. It came from out of New York State. They're a division of General Code, who is our code book publisher, as is Laserfish. What I'm gonna suggest is, how about if I set up a demo for the next board meeting?
I'm gonna go talk to Chrissy tomorrow then and see what she thinks.
Maybe
So let me look at it.
either that or maybe we do a work session at some point.
Oh, okay, so just, yeah,
We'll ask the mayor, I just think that, I know I'm gonna have probably 2 hours worth of questions, so
so maybe we should do
I
it like
can't
on a
see,
separate
I can't
meeting.
see doing a board meeting for 2
No, we'll
hours.
do it one day.
And those people who are available to come, and if we have to notice it as a public meeting, we'll notice it as a public meeting.
Sure, no problem.
Well, we don't, you wouldn't have, it's a product, we can evaluate the product. I know, what, it's not a public meeting.
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
Unless it's something you're gonna hear a negotiations.
If that's easy,
Forum of the board is gonna be there.
Frank, we just have to notice it, that's it, it's relatively simple to do that.
And Mayor Harrington has arrived.
I am now relinquishing the gavel, sorry. You too.
Well, it would be the first time.
All right, we're done.
Let's do it.
I
So actually, I had just presented our Recovery Act funding and our plans for spending it on upgrading all of our systems. And we were saying we would like to set a date for demo for, you, Randall, and the other interested board members, so,
For demonstration, okay,
right.
yeah, perfect,
So tomorrow I'll ask you to throw in a couple of days.
sounds good.
Let's circle back to NICOM since Brian's here.
Okay.
Yes, I was about to. Okay, so I asked for approval to Suzanne and I to attend NICOM full training school, and Randall deferred to you as mayor for your approval.
Yeah, so this is something you've done before, correct?
Yes,
Last
last year we did it virtually.
It was virtual last year. So what is the total cost again?
For the two of us, it's $2,872.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's
That's well
good to
within the
start.
budgeted amount.
Staff,
And we budgeted for it, yeah.
this is part of how we keep everybody up to date on the policies and the laws in New York State, so I'm in favor of it. We need to ratify that, or?
I just asked for a second.
I'll second it since I did leave it.
All in favor?
Bye.
Okay, so this is, I believe on Wednesday, Governor Cuomo, stated that that beginning Labor Day, all government employees need to be vaccinated or submit to weekly testing. Now, we are not New York State government employees, we're a participating agency of New York State government. So Jeff said that this would actually be subject to a board's decision, whether we want to mimic the policy of the state. We have a member of the staff who's not vaccinated, and we need to put a policy in place.
Let's set that aside. I think the goal of the policy is to ensure that both our employees and anybody who's entering and exiting the building is not put at risk. So I think that, following along with these rules, just to ensure that if there's, if you're vaccinated, that's great, there's a lower level of risk, but if you're not, that we're, staying on top of it and flagging any concerns, I think is a good policy. We're not forcing anybody to, take a step that they don't want, if they have a medical reason and excuse, but I think it's a good way to make sure that everyone is protected along the way. So my recommendation with the board is, I think it's a proactive policy to keep everybody safe, and that we should adopt it. Are there any questions or concerns around it?
Is there any cost involved if someone were subject to testing or the village response?
I'm so sorry, I cannot hear.
So what are the costs, and who covers the cost of testing at the end
Yeah,
of the day?
essentially.
That's right.
That word.
Right, from what I've read, it is the decision of our policy to determine who covers the cost. And we can certainly put it on the employee who does have health insurance paid by the village.
And I know that you can now get rapid tests like at CVS and stuff, so they're more readily accessible. And,
You have a home test also.
yeah, the whole kit. I don't know what the cost of that is, that's a good question.
The home kit is $20, and you get two tests in it. expensive by my grandmother's. So I think it's about $10 a test, something like that.
So Ronnie, it's one employee, is that right, we're talking about here? One
Yes.
employee needs to be tested weekly, assuming they're not
Or
gonna
get
change their
vaccinated.
stance on vaccination.
Potentially,
Potentially.
right, because there's HIPAA issues and we don't want to get into what the factors are there and things like that. So if we need to get into personnel matters, I'd say let's go to executive session. That's-
Right, I
that's
mean,
just-
be it
that's the
biological or
situation.
medical
I just
need, it
wanna be
doesn't
careful.
matter.
So, this is tough. I feel like we should know the cost of this and we move very long before we make this decision. So why don't you let us come back and do that first?
Okay,
I
but
feel
like I
that's
said,
a fair decision to make without.
the governor's policy
Yeah.
takes effect Labor Day,
Yeah.
and our next meeting is after Labor Day.
Well, listen, is anybody that really concerned about the cost? Is it something the village should bear or? Because it may be covered by their insurance. I think those are questions we have to find out.
Does it matter if we wait the extra week after Labor Day, in essence? You just want to wait though,
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that, it's not like we can't do it after.
so let's wait, just in case, I don't want to force it, just in case we answers that we can't answer Claire's concern.
We should know what our costs are, what the cost of the employees would potentially be. Because this could be an issue, right, if we need to get boosters, and there's a whole rollout of that, this would extend past, just the current timeframe, so let's get the cost and come back to it.
Okay, so we're going to adjourn this matter to September 13th.
Yeah.
And that is, the last thing is, the newsletter is ready to go, except for a big cover story, which is about traffic safety. And I was wondering
Okay,
if,
we'll finalize that tomorrow.
I was gonna say, I know Frank is like so involved with traffic safety, I was wondering if you'd be interested in offering something? I don't know, it's up to you, man.
If Frank wants to do it, I'm more than happy to do it.
Wait. Frank is interested in traffic safety because I've been complaining about the stop sign for 4 years.
No, longer than that.
And speeding taxis.
And speeding taxis, right.
Listen,
All right,
it's all
so,
done up to the meeting, like, we will get the article written tomorrow and get the newsletter out.
yeah, I have a list of people I see every day. Chronic abuse.
Oh, why don't we publish license plates?
No. Docs.
Shave it.
Docs.
No, I wouldn't, I wouldn't do that.
Amen.
All I'll say is right.
Okay. Is that
Okay,
all you got?
that's it for me. Do you have a zoning board report? I know that you were here, but Ms. Levin told us.
I emailed it earlier today. There were two matters before the board. One was at 7 East High. Both of the applications.
Jeff, it's hard to hear you, could you speak in your mic or talk up with the mask on?
Is this any better or? No?
Question mark.
Press your button.
There
Ah.
you go.
There you
Any better? So there were two matters that were before the ZBA, one on 7 East High. The applicant was seeking two variances, one to maintain an already existing shed inside the rear and side yard setbacks. That was granted so long as it's only permitted to be maintained. Should the shed reach a point where they're going to remove it, they can't replace it. It won't be a grandfathered provision. The other portion of that application was to exceed the floor area ratio. They were seeking to add to the building such that they would have a structure that would be 4,969 square feet where 4,345 is allowed. What they were essentially doing was modifying so that a covered porch would now become interior space. And on the second floor, they were adding a dormer extension. The board determined it was not out of character and approved it. The second application was on Middle Neck Road, and the applicant was seeking to construct a second-story addition. And what they were actually asking to do was to further in going to the front yard setback. But the fact of the matter is that what they were really doing is just putting on a second floor addition that would align with an already existing first floor addition, just sort of evening it off. So the board, so that it is not being a detriment to the surrounding area and also through that variance. And that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor.
First, wireless antenna law update, we talked about this at the last meeting when I was here. I think based off of the conversation with him, I'd like to update our law and get kind of that expert advice to help us through it, given all the changes that have happened over the past 2-3 years now since we went through that process. I think we went through some things through that process and we should look at it, but there's going to be, I think it's best to kind of get that expert opinion so that there's some costs associated with that. I just wanted to check with the board and see based off of Ed's presentation, were there any concerns, does anybody kind of disagree with that? Because I think these antennas and the technology are here to stay, and we'll see if the courts, how they handle our case. But even after that's over, we're gonna have some stuff to do, and someone could walk in on day one with an application. So I think we should update it to wherever we need to now, and then we can take another look at it based off of the board decision.
Mr. Whitcutt, do we need a motion to authorize our boards to work on the update?
I was not here for the discussion with Mr. Ross before. I would think that normally we need to reach out to Mr. Ross's firm to provide a proposal of costs to the board for the board to consider, and a scope of work, proposed scope of work.
So I don't think we need to approve that. I just want to check in with the board and see if anybody had concerns with that. We'll get a proposal, we need a decision on whether we get the costs or worth or not at that point. But just given that conversation, I want to see what everybody's thoughts are.
So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I can reach out to that Ross and ask him to provide that information.
Just any comments or questions from the board? Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Great, thank you.
And COVID update, sorry, I should be speaking to the mic. COVID update, Ronnie already went over that, the employee policy. The only other thing is we're going to be monitoring CDC guidelines, and obviously we started to update our policies. So that is all I have at this time. Oh, actually, one other thing, right of way. Trees in the right of way. So a few years ago, the village did have trees in the right of way program to plant trees. Each year we buy, I don't know how many trees, right?
About 20 to 25.
20 to 25 trees, and we opened it up to residents to volunteer their property to have a tree planted in the right of way. We've been taking a lot of action to preserve trees, especially on construction sites. But I think there are a lot of trees, whether they come down from storms or from development in the village, that we should try and restore. Gary and I are going to be talking about potentially some things we can do, I think, through the code, but also would like to look at implementing that program again as we look to the rest of the year, next year, depending on how our budget goes. But definitely, if not this year, in the next budget cycle. So I wanted to raise it, start a conversation in the community. I think we can start with people who volunteer their homes and then look for maybe streets that are really desolate with trees along the right of way. Right?
I would propose that we add something to the newsletter asking people if they're interested in having a street tree placed in their house. They contact us, we put them on the list, and then it's, first come, first served.
That's great.
And in the past, we had done it spring and fall, and it seems that in the fall, the trees were not as successful as those planted in the spring. So, something in the newsletter saying that we will be doing this in the spring as our Arbor Day project.
Okay. And then, Gary, we had talked about a survey the other day too. So this probably all rolls into our Parks and Beautification Committee too. So we were talking about it. You already, okay, perfect. So I just wanted to raise that and kind of put it on there. We can talk more about it as we move forward.
So when is the newsletter due to come out?
ASAP.
Hopefully before the end of August.
Is there something you wanted to add?
No, I don't want to add, I want you guys to get it up, because shouldn't we have a fall one then?
Yeah, we're probably going to be moving the time, kind of sliding the time.
Right, so I just wanted to make sure.
All right, that's all I have. Trustees, anybody have any updates you want to share?
Oh, Mayor, and just to backtrack a little, we talked about the community garden setting a date for, for ceremony.
Yes.
I spoke to Ginny McNamara today, and she thought that, the first Thursday or Friday after Labor Day might be a good time, but, I didn't know what your schedule was.
12th or 13th, that would be.
No, I think it's the week before.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at August. I apologize. 9th or 10th. Yeah, I think we're. Why don't we look at the 10th?
Okay, so, trustee Janice, do you want to reach out to the fire department and see if they're available on September 10th?
Yeah.
I would just say, since it's the 20th anniversary
It's
of
so
9/11, perhaps, I would just suggest that
Yeah.
since it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11, there's a pretty good chance that they may be
Yeah.
tied up with
So-
things surrounding that, so I would suggest maybe you.
Let's avoid that week, yeah.
Let's do it maybe a week later. 17th?
What?
17th? Is it? That's a good point.
16th is Yom Kippur. So, what's 17th? Well, why don't we check with Ginny on the 17th?
Aaron, is, Wednesday night? Yeah, Wednesday night, so Wednesday, Sunday, so Friday.
Okay, I'll check with, Jenny.
All right, since there's no trustees reports, parking issue on Rich Drive West. I really want to, like to do. So, this is an issue we've talked about a couple times. The parking from the business area encroaching into residents' houses, basically from, Rich Drive, the corner behind Joanne's Pizza, basically back to Peachtree Lane. And so we do have some residents who are here with us. There are some new homeowners and some homeowners who've been around a little longer. The last time this came up, I think there was one resident who really raised it to our attention. We had discussed no parking. We had put it on the agenda. We got kind of tepid support for it, and then we got support against it because people were worried that the parking issue would then be moved to other blocks in the neighborhood. So we punted on it, and we decided not to move forward with no parking, and we reached out to the businesses and asked them to be more attentive. I don't know if it was because of COVID, but it seems to have quieted down for 8 months, and then it seems like over the past couple of weeks that it has started to impact the residents there again. So Randall and I were with them on Saturday, had a long conversation, kind of looked at what was going on, gave them the background and the history to the situation. I think one of the things we're going to look into is having the person or the company that did the traffic study for us maybe take a look at that area and see if there's any recommendations. But the one thing we wanted to do tonight, Randall, was I don't know if Peter, did we get any feedback from Peter on the idea of removing no parking? Do you want to explain the no parking idea? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, removing the no parking, so then we would open up more parking towards Northern Boulevard.
So historically, we had parking from the first house next to Joanne's. There was no parking all the way down to Joanne's. I guess now it's been a year, right, Rich? It's about a year.
Yeah.
We removed that parking restriction, so now cars can park where the little island is from the first house next to Joanne's all the way down to Joanne's parking lot. That added 4 or 5 parking spots. So that did help out some of the situation. There is additional parking on Ridge Drive West across the street from Joanne's where the white medical building is. And we measured it today, and I believe the road is wide enough that we can look into removing the parking restriction from North Boulevard up to the driveway of the medical building. That would gain us maybe 4, I don't know the length of it per se, but it might gain us another 4 or 5 spots. So at least part of the solution is to put in more available parking spots for all of these workers. And for the record, for people who don't know, it's primarily the workers at Flower Hill Auto Body, Brian Cooper, and then our friends at Joanne's. So if we add some more spots, hopefully that can alleviate part of the solution. So Peter gave me a very nice minimum specifications on roads, and I didn't really read it well, Peter, but according to Peter, it seems like it's pretty good that we can change the no parking designation to parking.
The other thing we're going to look at, as we talk to the traffic safety expert as well, is reduced times for parking. Like if we limit it to 2 or 3 hour parking, could that be an option? How does it work in communities? And kind of figure that out too. But this seems like a temporary step. It seemed to work the first time and alleviate some of the problems. You know, hopefully that it might do that. But I guess before, I don't know, if anybody doesn't have any questions or comments, maybe we can, if any of the residents want to speak on the issue or have any insights they want to share, happy to have any of you speak. Any residents want to speak on it? Yes, sir.
I live on 14 Bridge,
Yes.
which was part of the traffic study also. It's awful. I came here on Friday afternoon, I work from home, and it's progressively, I know you said it kind of come down very quick, but not really.
So you're,
I'm on 14 left side.
you were here for the speeding issue too?
Yeah.
He's switched driving.
So are you also impacted by the construction that's going on at that house too?
Yeah, which is part of the construction, I get that.
Yeah.
But the parking has now gotten past construction.
Okay.
I'm close to 7th Drive. So that means they've started and it's 100% running Cooper. I have a video on my phone on Friday that I walked in and talked to, I guess, with Ryan and tell the inspector, they get dressed in the street, the waiters, legitimately garbed in the middle of the street. And they're parking so far away that if there's action, something's got to get done sooner than later. It's really bad. It's at all-time low. And the construction's the construction, that's okay. They got to do what they have to do, but the parking has come so far up. And now it causes even more of a safety concern. When you're driving down there, you can't see anything going towards Joanne's. So it's as bad as it's gotten. That's why I physically came here on Friday to show a video of how bad it is. I saw the guy down the street, he's getting dressed as he's walking. It's just not good at all.
Sir?
Yeah, the 6th Ridge Drive West, Hunchang. I think that there's several safety concern because from the east to west, there's a sharp curve, and it's to drive up to Northern Boulevard. Actually, it's downhill coming into our village.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are rows of cars parked on the middle neck both side, and then there's only one car space can go by. And if there's a car traveling up to Northern Boulevard, and while the car's coming down and making a curve there, and either car has to move back, they have to back off, let the other car go pass by. So I think it can be very dangerous, and not only for the driver, but also the pedestrians walking on the street. So I think that this has to be, this issue has to be resolved. Otherwise, because we have many pedestrians walking actually toward Dunkin' Donut, Joanne's Pizza. Actually, we have quite good many of the neighbors walking on the street, and that can be very dangerous. So I think that this issue has to be resolved.
Yeah, and part of the thing we're balancing out too is I think what we heard from you all, just to kind of, again, highlight why it's complicated, is you all need access, you want to use the front of your houses too. So if we do no parking, then that impacts everybody. Yes.
If the sign goes up, it's not enforceable, let's say, by a police officer, but it's there. They don't know that. By having nothing, they just utilize every open spot. If the sign doesn't go up, there's no way these people will stop. I've had conversations with them, and they're very rude.
No, I know, but if we put no parking, if we put no parking up,
What's that?
if we put no parking up, and then the residents.
They're not walking 3 blocks away to go to parking.
Fine, let me think, you don't understand what I'm saying. So if I put a no parking sign up in front of your house.
Right.
And you now want to park in front of your house, or have your guest park in front of your house, we have to give you a ticket. If we choose not to enforce it on you, they're gonna see that it's not enforced, that's a problem. We can't create
No
resident only
one
parking.
no one parks in front of the house. It's.
So I disagree with you because the residents here do park in front of their house. So they're trying to, we're trying to balance out the need for them to use the space in front of their house too. So I get what you're saying, that if we put no parking up, you don't think if they'll park 3 blocks away to walk. I get what you're saying.
Specifically from Brian Cooper Flower Body Shop, no parking.
Okay.
Why can't you put
You
no
have that
commercial?
specifically?
You can't.
It's not commercial. It's anybody.
Well, I'll double check. We can't do no commercial parking, right?
You can do no commercial, but they're not
commercial, they're all.
And it has to be registered.
How about residents only?
Yeah, we went down that.
You tried that.
Jeff did research, New York State law doesn't allow it, and then we would forfeit all our chips and fees. So that's
State.
like $300,000 a year. We would have to forfeit.
Gotta be some answer.
So that's why it's not a simple answer. I think we open up more spots closer to the business district. That's one thing, right? These are gonna be in front of businesses. So hopefully it pulls some of the traffic out of there, and then we can, talk to the expert and see what other options we can come up with.
Is there a way to have a meeting with Brian and Cooper, Joanne's?
I walked in there, they're doing.
No, but if it's directed not by you, by
Right, I'm
us.
saying, it's a joke, and I walked in there.
We should talk to the owner of the parking building, because that's such an underutilized parking lot. We should be able to get a park share out of that.
So we did meet with Flower Hill Auto Body and Brian Cooper last year, because at that time, those were the 2 businesses. I hadn't heard about Joanne's and Dunkin' Donuts
It's not
until recently.
Joanne, Joanne's is not coming up Ridge Drive. It's-
Well, again, sir, that's your opinion. There are residents that we met with that they see the Joanne's employees parking.
No, up east, I'm saying,
Okay,
up east, coming up towards Center Drive.
I'm talking about the
Yes,
entire neighborhood.
I'm
Other
saying,
people are
right,
having issues.
right.
So we met with Brian Cooper and Flower Hill Auto Body Shop. The meeting last year, they were very receptive and both said they would address it. The issue it got better, and then over the last week or 2, it's gotten worse. Now, I know you're saying on Ridge Drive East, you're saying it's progressively gotten worse for the last month?
From 5, I think it's 5, and I think it's up.
What time of the day does it start?
What?
7 a.m.
So again,
Now, that's not where you
frankly, there's 2 separate issues. So Ridge Drive West starts at 7 in the morning, Ridge Drive East starts at noon.
Noontime, during lunch at Brian Cooper.
So we got 2 separate issues, so whatever we work on is gonna be kind of separate for each.
But I'm thinking maybe we have restrictions at certain times of the day. So no parking from
10 to
noon
9.
to 6.
Which is what we tried in the last time, and then we had the residents' resistance to it.
No, that was only, he's saying no parking from 7 to 9, or 7 to 10.
That was part
That
of the
was part of it.
conversation we had last time. It was never to stop all parking in front of the houses. It was to put a block of time that makes it very unattractive for a person working to
I
leave
forgot.
park. That's why, because the homeowners still want to be able to park. They want to have their guests over on weekends and nights and whatever during the day. So doing some sort of disruptive parking thing, which is why we want to bring traffic people.
Right, but what I'm thinking is if Brian and Cooper's staff have to be in for the lunch shift at 11:30, for the dinner shift at 5, if we restrict parking from 11 to 6, residents can still park. You can't park overnight anyway in front of your house, in Flower Hill. So, I mean, how often are people parking in front of their house?
Then I think that's what we need to take a look at, a more holistic look at. Is it time-based, like you're saying? Is it limited to 2 or 3 hours? So that this way, if you're running your kids in the house, you don't have to worry. Or if you have friends over for a barbecue, you don't have to worry. But, it's discouraging that. So, Rich, you had a comment?
I know it's a same subject, but the only concern I have is with snow.
Oh, that's right.
I won't be able to get a plow down there. I know I feel for you guys, but I won't be able to get a plow down there at all,
If they park on,
both sides.
Because that island is there.
There's no way I'll get a plow down there, so that will not be plowed. Well, just so you know.
so what do we do on that street now as you get closer up?
Because the side where you're putting, where the business is, there's no cars there right now. I can make it through there, it's just.
I was talking about the other side, the
On
Joanne
the other
side.
side, I have a very small plow that can get just enough to get in there, but the other side is actually smaller. The city side is only 17 feet wide.
So Rich and I discussed it, so we do have snow emergency rules. We can start enforcing them. We can put the signs up there that say snow emergency route, et cetera. And then we'll just make sure every year religiously, we let our friends at Brian Cooper and Flower Auto Body know that on snow days, we will 1000% be ticketing anybody in Park or, right, so I guarantee that kind of ticket, they're not gonna want to pay the workers. So on snowy days, they'll have to put their car somewhere else.
New York City has had a lot of problems with the snow emergency parking. Because you go to court, it's very debatable, what time did the snow start? When did you hear that there was no parking? The sign doesn't give you details, like if it's an inch of snow or, so that's gonna be very hard.
I'll disagree with you. I don't think people are gonna come. Those many, we're gonna get 2 tickets, and after the 2 tickets, no one will park here again. They're not gonna find the ticket.
What about, let's, sometimes if you're part of the solution and you help what the problem is, that obviously, this has been going on, it's not new. But what if somebody mentioned the parking lot of the apartments? Is there a way that we can do some research? Is there any way, like New Best used to have to bus their employees in, right? So they had a different place where the employees parked. What if we were to find something or do, even if the apartments would get some money for it and say to Brian and Cooper, look, your employees cannot park on this street. They're gonna park at the apartment. Or, I'm just making that up. I'm
So
just
that was
saying.
part of the conversation we had.
Yeah.
Right now, they all work together so like Flower Hill Auto Body, Bright Cooper at night, park cars there. So it's not, some of it I think is formal, some of it is not, where they're trying to do that. Obviously, it's not a perfect solution, so I think we gotta talk to them again. I think part of it is getting a traffic expert to kind of tell us what our parking issues are. But yes, that is something we should absolutely broach with them. When we met with them, they did say they're already trying to do that with other properties around there. And actually, I saw them using what was the medical building, because I've been taking rides past every, coming home from a family event or something just to see. And I did see Brian Cooper people parking there at night, so I actually thought they worked out arrangements. So that's why I was surprised to hear folks saying, oh, they're pulling up and getting dressed out front.
I'm sure they're gonna be up on Friday.
No, I believe you 100%. I'm not saying it's not.
I mean, I can only speak for Trustees.
Yeah.
Well, West becomes a little bit different of an animal, but up east, I think parking signs would work. I can only speak for east.
Yeah.
These guys will not stop until they're told, unless they see something.
Mr. Kim.
Lee,
Sorry.
Oh, it's
My
okay.
apologies.
7 Nature Drive West, James. I would like to mention about a couple of other issues, the parking issue, because I realized since 2 weeks ago, because the parked cars is still cleaning vehicle couldn't get to. The vehicle couldn't clean our streets because there are so many cars parked since the 7 a.m. to maybe 11 p.m. And then there's also another issue for the garbage pickup because I don't know why they coming real late nowadays, but when they come, there are already cars parked, so they have in hard time to pick up garbage in the morning. So I would like to state these issues.
Yeah. Sitting here from Southern Ridge Drive, as well. I was wondering, they've been there for a long time, and I was wondering how they managed to do, park in the past, because this is only an issue for the past, I think, 1 or 2 years, right?
It's,
For a long time?
they've been parking there for, I don't want to say forever, but for a very, very, very long time.
Very, very, but I've heard.
The previous homeowner, the people who lived there before you, they never complained. The people who live in your home never complained. It's only been,
I think
He's been there for
that,
3 years.
I think that the issue has gotten a lot worse very lately. That's what I have noticed. Yeah, I understand that there are, few employees of those businesses just park on the street. There were few, but that's what I have noticed because I live there long enough.
Yeah.
But as some of our neighbors just testified, it's gotten a lot worse lately. So I think that somehow, I really hope that Mayor could communicate with his business owners and try to find out some alternative solutions for their parking issues. I think that, I really believe that they want to be good neighbors and doing business in our neighborhood. I think that if we really think together and help each other, there must be a good solution.
Yeah, and listen, that's what they expressed last year, and I think they genuinely have tried. I don't know why it's all of a sudden become an issue and expanded out. So we'll have to talk to them, and I think we try and get advice from an expert, and let's try to work with you.
Less people are taking transit these days. Everyone wants to be in their private car, so that could be contributing.
Yes. And John at Flower Hill Auto Body also said his business has increased. That, right, because of COVID, people were not doing things to their cars, and he thinks they're getting catch-up business too. So I think that's part of it as well. So hopefully this is temporary. When I talked to him about it, he, was like, I didn't realize it was an issue again. Again, I know some residents maybe disagree about that, but that's what he expressed to me. And was going to talk to his employees, and they addressed the trespassing issue too. That he was very upset about as well. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that again, because that's a secondary problem from parking.
Yes.
Because to get to their parked cars, they trespassed our properties 3 times already. 3 times.
So John had an employee meeting, explained to them that they are not to do that. Yeah, so again, if that comes up, make sure you call the police, call them, feel free to call them. Give us a call, and we'll give them a heads up as well.
Do we have an accurate inventory of the parking spaces that those businesses have on the premises, and are they to code? I mean,
Peter and Jeff, this came up last time, and I think part of the issue is they've been around so long, they're like grandfathered in under their old codes, which complicates matters, right?
maybe that's a law we should change.
Oh, yeah, Brian and Cooper, they have, some valley parking that they use off site. So that, they're limited, they've been there a long time, and that's their history.
Right, no, I'm just curious of.
The auto body place has the place next to them that they had an arrangement with, that's that little office building.
Yeah.
How much they use that for employees and how much they're using it actually for cars that are waiting to be, that, is.
I'm sure
not
they're more interested in getting the cars that they're servicing, and that's what parking lot.
Well, that's a bit, yeah.
And then part of the issue is you can park on a public street. So that's our challenge here, right? Even if you said, if they could create more parking, an employee doesn't have to park in their lot. They can choose to park on the street, right? And so this is where we get into the no parking issue. So if you create no parking, that takes care of their problem, but now we're opening up problems for the residents. So,
Just curious, I know the company you hired for the speed stuff, is that something that I know you guys do you fast, but time is of the essence. 30 days, 60 days go by, that's like, months go by, and then we're in the same position talking about it. We need something that, trust me, it's.
Ronnie reached out to them today to get a proposal, find out what costs are. That'll determine whether we have to go through a formal bidding process or get approval from the board based on cost. Then if it's going to take an act of the board, like what happened last time, we got to get public feedback, right? We got to give the community and the adjacent streets that could be impacted by anything input. So I'm going to be honest with you. I think removing the no parking in this area is a quick temporary solution, and we see how it works. We could reach out to the businesses again, and then if it's implementing no parking in other areas or limited time parking, that may take a couple months. So we're going to do our best, and we'll speed it up as best we can based on the recommendations we get. But I don't want to lie to you and be like, yeah, next week this is going to be taken care of, because it's not. We're going to do our best to encourage, constructive engagement here.
Right. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Comments? So I guess, do you want to make a motion on the removal of that no parking section right now?
But Peter would be good with it, right?
Well, I gave you the dimensions. I don't know what the dimension of that street is.
You said 17 feet.
17 feet.
Rich, where we get the,
So the
He
new.
wasn't good for the winter time, right?
Well-
17 feet wide without the gun.
Yeah,
It's
I
about
mean, the
19
minimum
feet.
that's in the, like, for the fire access is like, the reference to like gates on a road, and that's 12 feet. So with a parked car, a 17
So
foot.
we run over the
wide-
median.
Yeah,
They'll run over the median.
well, the good thing is, yes, so there is a small median there, and it can, in theory, drive. No, we're talking about the little, we're talking about the little right of way trees, not. No, we don't want to do that. The idea is we want the fire trucks to be able to make it through.
So listen, I think here's the deal. We have a couple months till winter, right? I say if we remove the parking, if it helps the situation, then let's try and deal with the
This
plowing
is a
issue,
temporary fix.
right? If it doesn't help the issue, then we know, we can always put no parking back to deal with the plowing issue. But I think we can try this for a couple months and see if it helps with the parking issue. We have time to figure out what to do with plowing.
So Jeff, we can do this by resolution, or is this local law? Because I get confused.
It would be, if there's currently a local law that created the no parking, it have to be undone by another local law.
Okay, so we could not do that tonight then.
But you could propose a resolution and introduce the local law so that it could be passed in the next year.
Board member, is there any way you could do like a temporary executive order or something, test it? Like, can we say the next 60 days? that
Right.
we're gonna see-
haven't I seen where they just put a bag over the sign, a temporary thing? You could-
Yeah, I don't know if any
Yeah.
any tickets would probably not be enforceable, but I think the idea is why don't we do it as on a test basis? And if the tickets have to be dismissed, they're dismissed,
So the question is, could you do sort of a resolution, say for a brief period, we're going to see if we excuse the no parking provision next month, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
When you say no parking, you say at the back end of, like, the Kumon building?
We're talking from Northern Boulevard to the driveway of the medical building.
So basically, across from Joanne's Pizza on Ridge Drive on the opposite side.
On Ridge Drive West,
Right.
from Northern Boulevard up to the driveway of the medical building.
I just want to
So
correct you,
that's
I just
about-
want to correct you that it is no longer a medical building, it's law offices.
I know, I always-
Other offices.
I would always call
That's
it-
actually, that's a really good point then. Maybe they have extra capacity. If it's a law office versus a
That's-
medical building.
They
That's
have
what I
a-
said. I thought Ryan Cooper had been using it. I saw employees parking there and walking over to the restaurant. So I thought they had started to use it. They can't use it during the day because they have their own traffic coming in after 5 o'clock, so it's offices.
But certainly, parking for law offices have to be less than medical.
They also have a Kumon tutor.
So, what can we do here?
Sure, I think the board could do that because it's the same thing as discretion. The prosecutor doesn't have to enforce a particular provision, code enforcement doesn't have to enforce. So if the board is saying for the next month, we're not going to enforce that provision, we'll put up appropriate notices so people know, so we can get a sense of how that changes the traffic patterns.
Mary Jane, you try it out for 2 months, 60
I think
days?
a month's not enough.
Yeah, let's do it 60 days.
By the time people figure out, then 2 weeks are already gone, so I think 2 months should be more.
The patterns change. We won't get a good gauge on
And effective last
Okay,
And we might be next.
let's make it tomorrow.
For instance, we sign them.
Yeah.
And, I think we should reach out to our supers and, Ron Shuffle, let them know.
Yeah, so, I'll make a motion for a resolution. I'm gonna make a motion for a resolution to remove the parking from Northern Boulevard, no parking temporarily for 60 days from Northern Boulevard to the entrance of the law office, on Northern Boulevard and Rich Drive
Yes, for sure.
Right?
It's 1077 North.
Thank you.
Any questions,
I
comments?
know we have a second.
Oh, I'd love to second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I will reach out to those two businesses and let them know.
All right, thank you residents for coming down, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate your patience.
Listen, you see me every day, come yell at me. I'm walking by your house every day with the dog, so if you're not getting any satisfaction, but I do have to say, I did notice today, the workers left everybody's walkway open. At least they were nice to leave, so they're, I'm not saying they're the worst, but they've been kind and at least leaving the walkways, because we've asked them, leave the walkways, because you want to get, you come in the house, or you want to get your landscapers in, so we appreciate that, so they have been leaving, and again, they might not do it every day, but at least today when I walk by, every single house had a nice walkway, no cars there.
Just don't want 18 cars parked in the front at 7 AM anymore.
I know.
That day, we were done with it.
Well, and today they filmed the park again.
I'm sorry.
There was a lot of cars there this morning as well.
Yeah.
It was big again.
All right, I'm gonna keep this moving. Any new business? Non-history report, our beloved historians, what do we have today?
Well, you can read it. This is really the beginning of Flower Hill history. You want me to read it?
No.
It's there. What I'm thinking of is in a brochure, using this as the starting point. But I still am having trouble getting the information on the 19th century. Before we became a village, there were reasons why we suddenly became a village. And I need to get into town hall, and I've not been able to do that.
And I'm gonna follow up on that this week, Rhoda.
Great.
Thank you. All right,
Just my question is that the Fordham from Fordham University?
What was it?
The Fordham, the guy who led the.
Robert Fordham,
Fordham.
is he related, is he associated with Fordham University at all?
It might be, the name rings a bell.
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Fordham
I'm
is
gonna
I'll
want
bet
this.
It doesn't have to do with that.
I'll take your word for it. Why would they have these guys and just promise
Fordham
to
is
be?
for,
I would
is
say.
for facts and.
Maybe he was running away.
What?
Maybe he was running away.
I don't
Yeah.
know if they were at the time. But I had been deputy town clerk. And I knew exactly where the documents were. You go into the hall and you turn to your left again. And that's where you get the South Hempstead and North Hempstead. And there are files there on Civil War,
Okay,
which are interesting and
thank you.
that's what I'm looking
All
for.
right, Mitchell, do you have anything?
Yeah, it's very quick, don't worry. I just want to let the board know, for the past several months, I've been working on a whole filing system for a lot of our old documents, including deeds of deeds of dedications for roads, plat maps and the like, surveys, easement information, documents on the construction of Village Hall. That system is complete. There are history boxes, HXX, and I put it into a spreadsheet, and probably tomorrow, it's just a little late, I told Ronnie about this earlier. I'm going to give, and you'll get an email too with it and the link. I'm gonna make Ronnie an editor, I'm gonna make all of you editors. So that way it's just easy to access everything.
Thank you, Mitchell. All right, that is all any other public comment? All right, thank you, everybody, appreciate you coming tonight. Jeff, for this conversation, we have to do executive session, or? Okay, so we'll adjourn the board meeting, or we'll close the board meeting. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mayor. You're very welcome.
Okay, motion by the mayor, second by Gary Woodhouse, all in favor?
Bye.
Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome. Appreciate your patience, too. And, that's the thing I struggle with.